That's loyalty. That's one thing I can say about that woman, Miss Tripp Dove. She's been following this man since he entered the league at 18, and here she is right now. Do you know how long it is, Stephen A., to get people to stay in a relationship for 2 decades? That's what Miss Tripp Dove has done with GOAT James, the 6'8" guy from Akron, Ohio.
Stephen A. Smith, however, was less amused. He argued that while LeBron's streak was impressive, it didn't elevate him above Michael Jordan. 6 rings, 6 finals MVPs, 10 scoring titles, Stephen A. exclaimed. LeBron at his best isn't MJ at his best.
But even with all that being said, there is one man, one transformational, mythical, and immortal man that played in the NBA and did something every night that had people's jaws hanging. The man retired more than 2 decades ago and is still the most recognizable sports figure of all time. He's the reason why 85% of the population ever picked up a basketball. The players have spoken, data has been collected, and all the numbers have been crunched. And no doubt should be left in anyone's mind. He's Michael Jeffrey Jordan, the greatest player of all time. With his team in desperate need of a defensive stop in overtime to avoid going down 3-1, Brooks let the old 38-year-old LeBron power right by him, sealing the deal with an epic and one. Although the Grizzlies defeated the Lakers in Game 5 by a score of 116-99 and avoided elimination in 5 games, Game 6 was back in Los Angeles and the Lakers cruised to a massive 40-point blowout win to eliminate the Grizzlies.
And you say that without hesitation.
Without hesitation.
You weren't always convinced. There was a point maybe midway through his career where you wouldn't have given him that honor, but eventually he won you over, right?
Well, when you're playing against him, you know you're not going to say that because you got to come out and compete against him. But now sitting over here in the mic and being out of the game for 3 or 4 years and watching what he's done over the last couple of years, without question, this guy's the greatest that I've ever seen play.
If you've been paying attention at all, you know that is an incredible mouthful coming from Isaiah Thomas. And it's especially interesting considering Isaiah's recent track record of where he's been on the GOAT debate.
LeBron James just did something we've never seen in NBA history. At nearly 40 years old, 4 consecutive triple-doubles, a feat he'd never achieved before, and it's shaking up the entire conversation about his legacy. Is this the final piece of evidence that solidifies him as the GOAT, or does Michael Jordan still hold that throne? And wait until you hear what Shannon Sharpe said that had Stephen A. Smith completely losing it live on air. Stick around. This might just change the way you see LeBron forever.
But calling yourself the greatest of all time is an entirely different matter. And this entirely different matter called for some chaos among fans and pundits.
And then after I stopped, I was like, that one right there made you the greatest player of all time. No, everybody was just talking how they were the greatest team of all time. Like, they was the greatest team to ever assemble. And for us to come back, you know, the way we came back in that fashion, I was like, you did something special.
See, that was exactly the reason why things backfired when Brooks decided to display his shenanigans against none other than LeBron James. And what happened next? Let's just say Dillon Brooks learned a lesson he'll never forget. Dillon Brooks' antics got so bad that he would have been sent to Shanghai if the Rockets didn't scoop him up after last season. Brooks was all about that trash talk and stirring up controversy. From hitting guys below the belt, to talking trash in the post-game media session, and even picking fights with multiple-time NBA champions, it was getting out of hand. If you're going to disrespect playoff Bron, you might regret it. Because in Brooks' case, that series was his last time ever in a Grizzlies uniform. Thanks for watching today's video. If you like this one, feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
LeBron James just did something we've never seen in NBA history. At nearly 40 years old, 4 consecutive triple-doubles, a feat he'd never achieved before, and it's shaking up the entire conversation about his legacy.
The most subjective, debatable, confusing, and especially the most frustrating conversation in maybe not just sports, but the entire world. Look, you can tell yourself all you want about how you won't any longer take part in any GOAT debate, or that there's no such thing as a quote-unquote GOAT, or even the fact that the conversation won't ever end. So there's no point in even starting one. But Then a friend or someone you know chimes in on the GOAT debate and says something that you don't exactly agree with. And voila, you've just got yourself into another debate. But here's a serious thought. Why should we want to hear each other's opinions instead of the opinions of the guys who actually got to see greatness up close and personal? I get it. Players might be biased towards the era they played in, or might make a certain pick because they feel some type of way towards another player. I say Thomas. So here's what I did. LeBron James. Before the 2023 NBA playoffs, LeBron and Brooks squared off 11 times in the regular season, with LeBron averaging his usual 25 points and 8 assists in those games. Brooks never gave LeBron much problem on the court up until this point, but he decided to go at the king when the two met in the first round of the 2023 playoffs. The Lakers took Game 1 convincingly, but in Game 2, things were taking a turn. LeBron was getting fed up with all of Brooks' antics, and with the Lakers trying to battle back into the game, the already frustrated LeBron saw his opportunity against Brooks, backed him down, and hit this fall-away shot over him. And by LeBron's reaction after the play, you could tell Brooks was loving every moment of this ongoing beef. This nearly resulted in LeBron picking up a tech. Because if you ask Jason Kidd, the man who saw LeBron play the worst series of his life and suffer the single lowest moment of his career, this is what he had to say despite all of the above.
LeBron becomes the all-time leading scorer next year. Does that make him the greatest player of all time, or is that still Michael Jordan?
That's a good question, and that's the barbershop question. I think LeBron will go down as the greatest to do it. When you look at what his numbers, what he's done on and off the floor, no one's done that. So he'll go. I mean, you got to put the whole package together. He's the greatest of all time.
Okay, let me transition a bit. Dillon Brooks is a name that needs no introduction. Everyone knows that he desperately wants to be the bad guy, the villain on the court. But little does he realize that you have to have a serious game to back up all the talking. See, that was exactly the reason why things backfired when Brooks decided to display his shenanigans against none other than LeBron James. And what happened next? Let's just say Dillon Brooks learned a lesson he'll never forget.
But here's where it gets interesting. Even if you don't consider him the GOAT, there's no denying that LeBron is rewriting the book on what's possible in professional sports. And let's not overlook the cultural impact. LeBron's longevity inspires not just athletes, but anyone striving for greatness in their field. His ability to defy Father Time is a message to every doubter. Greatness isn't confined by age or expectations.
According to LeBron, he himself is the best to ever play in the NBA. An opinion that just didn't sit too well with a whole lot of people, because a lot of people said what I just told you. Hearing LeBron call himself the GOAT is just weird. Not because he's being egregious or saying something completely out of line, but because we've never heard a historically great player say such a thing about themselves. But I guess LeBron said it because he was around his friends. I mean, what better time to say something like that than when you're sitting in a circle of all your childhood friends who you've spent seemingly a lifetime with?
This might just change the way you see LeBron forever. To truly understand the weight of what LeBron just accomplished, let's rewind the clock. It's 2003, and an 18-year-old kid from Akron, Ohio, is making his NBA debut. The expectations? Unbelievable. The pressure? Insurmountable. He was labeled the chosen one, but few thought he could truly live up to it. Fast forward 2 decades, and not only has he matched those expectations, he's surpassed them. LeBron James is a name synonymous with greatness. He's the NBA's all-time leading scorer, but unlike traditional scoring legends, his game isn't built around selfishness. He's a pass-first player who redefined what it means to dominate the league, and yet as he approaches 40, many doubted if he still had anything left to prove.
But Brooks was just getting started. He took it to the next level by committing a flagrant foul on LeBron just 17 seconds into the second half of Game 3, getting him ejected from the game. Despite being on the receiving end of the flagrant, LeBron rallied the Lakers in the second half to a double-digit victory, pushing them to a 2-1 series lead. And how did the rest of the series play out for Brooks? But let's rewind a bit. Was Dillon Brooks always this irritant pest? Or did he become one after he was drafted? Back in his college days at Oregon, he led Oregon to the Final Four, which the school has never been to up until that point. He was the featured guy on a college roster and had to lead his team to wins. He had a villain killer mentality. But it wasn't solidified up until this point because of the role he had at Oregon. He would start his NBA career in 2017 after being drafted by the Rockets, but quickly being traded to the Memphis Grizzlies on draft night. But the interesting part about Brooks, especially after being taken 45th overall in that draft, was that he would not come into the NBA and be the same featured guy he was at Oregon. He had to fight for minutes early in his career. And when it comes to fighting for minutes to keep your job, you have to stand out.
Isaiah, I have to ask you this question. It is a topic we have debated many times on this show. Who is the better all-time player, LeBron or Michael?
Well, I'm going to say neither. In my opinion, neither one of them are. And I've been on record saying this. To me, the greatest player to ever play the game that I've seen is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
That was an entire 19 years after Isaiah had already announced MJ as the undisputed greatest player of all time, while MJ was still playing. Fast forward 7 years later, and like I've been saying, these opinions change far too often.
Do you have LeBron over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Not until he passes him in the scoring title, but as an all-around player, yes.
That's now two former NBA players that have said that LeBron's status as GOAT is pending on his quest to becoming the NBA's all-time leading scorer.
During this streak, LeBron hinted at something monumental: his dream of one day playing alongside his son, Bronny, in the NBA. This isn't just about personal achievement anymore. It's about legacy, family, and breaking barriers no one else has even dreamed of touching. So what does LeBron's four-game triple-double streak truly mean? Is it the exclamation point on a GOAT career, or just another chapter in a story that still isn't finished?
Remember when he got into it with Gary Payton II, leaving him with a fractured elbow? Then there's the trash talk, telling Klay Thompson straight up that he sucks, which got Klay firing back with some harsh words of his own, and showing Brooks his four fingers representing his 4 championship rings. And don't get me started on his battles with Draymond Green. These two just can't seem to stay out of each other's way every single time they meet. And while all this was going on with Brooks, the NBA, and more specifically the entire Western Conference, was taking notice. Brooks sure got his wish to defend LeBron, but it appears that he was way over his head with that disrespectful comment, and now it sounds like he's going to have to pay the price. He was also a complete no-show throughout those 6 games, especially offensively. 24 of 77 from the floor, 31.2% shooting, and the worst, I repeat, the worst points per possession of all players in the postseason who attempted at least 50 field goals. He went 8 of 33 from the three-point line during the Lakers series. Not only could he not stop LeBron by any means, he had a horrific performance on the offensive end. Brooks put himself under a ton of pressure to perform, and he couldn't back up his talk. Even though LeBron didn't exactly give Brooks 40, he didn't need to drop 40 to prove his point.
Who's surprised by this other than Stephen A? Because he knows this man is the GOAT. The man has been the best player. I mean, there's been very few players come in with the expectations that this man has had placed upon him and exceeded no matter what you thought or how great LeBron James was going to be. He's exceeded every expectation. A pass-first player is the greatest scorer in NBA history.
Smith, however, was less amused. He argued that while LeBron's streak was impressive, it didn't elevate him above Michael Jordan. 6 rings, 6 finals MVPs, 10 scoring titles, Stephen A. exclaimed. LeBron at his best isn't MJ at his best.
No way! No way! Okay, 6-0, 10-time scoring champion, 9-time All-NBA defensive. Are you out your mind? Don't even get me started. LeBron is great. I love what I'm seeing from him. It's spectacular.
And voila! You've just got yourself into another debate. But here's a serious thought. Why should we want to hear each other's opinions instead of the opinions of the guys who actually got to see greatness up close and personal? I get it. Players might be biased towards the era they played in, or might make a certain pick because they feel some type of way towards another player. Isaiah Thomas. So here's what I did. I scoured the internet to find as many opinions as I could from current and former players to find out who they think the NBA's GOAT is. And I've got to say, of the opinions I came across, a lot of them might just surprise you. And if we compare the results from a player poll that was done by The Athletic in 2019, there was a clear-cut answer to the GOAT debate. An overwhelming 73% of active NBA players said Michael Jordan was the GOAT when this poll was conducted over 3 years ago. In second place came LeBron James with 11% of the votes. After the game, Brooks made a very disrespectful remark on the King, and this was the turning point to where it all went wrong for Brooks. He didn't hold back going at LeBron. When a reporter asked if he should be doing his antics with one of the best players in the game, he responded with,
"I don't care, he's old."
And he even took it a step further, saying,
"I poke bears. I don't respect no one until they come and give me 40.
Not only could he not stop LeBron by any means, he had a horrific performance on the offensive end. Brooks put himself under a ton of pressure to perform, and he couldn't back up his talk. Even though LeBron didn't exactly give Brooks 40, he didn't need to drop 40 to prove his point. Going back to Game 3, he led the Lakers to a historic 35-9 lead in the first quarter, scoring 25 points in the game. LeBron could have fired back with some trash talk of his own, but instead, he took the high road, focusing on the game rather than getting caught up in Brooks' antics. Trash talk can be a double-edged sword, and in this case, Brooks found himself on the wrong end of it. And to add insult to injury, after the Grizzlies' second seed regular season ended in a first-round exit to the 7th-seeded Lakers, Memphis decided not to bring him back for another season. When the team's general manager declined to comment on Brooks' future, it was pretty clear which way the wind was blowing.
Once LeBron James is done playing his game of basketball, I'm definitely going to tell my grandkids, kids, that I played with one of the greatest to play the game of basketball. He will be the GOAT for a lot of generations. I started playing the game because of Michael Jordan. He will be my GOAT until the day I pass away. It doesn't take anything away from LeBron. This is just like LeBron. We started playing, we envisioned playing like Michael Jordan. So for me, from Chicago, where I grew up, I made it out the hood because I seen a dude, number 23, play the game of basketball at a level that I was like, I just want to do some of that.
But he's all of that in a bag of chips. He just ain't Jordan.
Shannon fired back, saying, "A pass-first player is the greatest scorer of all time. That alone should end the argument."
Probably the only problem I have with Stephen A is that the surprise that he had in his voice when he said the man is top 5. When has he not been? That's the thing. What's so amazing, during this run, 22 seasons, he's always been there.
The two clash like titans, representing the eternal GOAT debate that divides fans even today. Therefore, we must ask, what does this streak truly mean for LeBron's legacy? Some argue it's the clearest proof yet that he's the greatest player ever. Others believe it's merely another chapter in an already legendary career. But here's where it gets interesting. Even if you don't consider him the GOAT, there's no denying that LeBron is rewriting the book on what's possible in professional sports. And let's not overlook the cultural impact.
Any media person that I see in person for the rest of my life who try to tell me LeBron James is good as Michael Jordan, I'm just going to slap the hell out of him right on the spot. Right on the damn spot. No question asked. The next person who walks up to me and say, LeBron James, who is amazing, as good as Michael Jordan or competes like Michael Jordan, I'm just going to slap the hell out of you right on the spot, and I'm going to take my chances with the judicial system.
Oh, well, that was harsh. I mean, what better time to say something like that than when you're sitting in a circle of all your childhood friends who you've spent seemingly a lifetime with? And speaking of friends, why not hear the opinion of the man who probably has been LeBron's biggest friend in the NBA and someone he's played several seasons with?
Once LeBron James is done playing his game of basketball, I'm definitely going to tell my grandkids, kids, that I played with one of the greatest to play the game of basketball. He will be the GOAT for a lot of generations.